Right, so we're ready to open a file. So we can go File New, we can go over to the icon New, and anywhere there is a hotkey, you could hit that hotkey. So being that it's Windows, there are 5 ways to do everything. I'm just going to go File New, and then more than likely I'll be using the icon. All right, so if we go to the standard, all right, so these are leftover. You should see the part, the assembly, and the drawing. So I'll need to rearrange those. And if I hover over those are telling me those are in the SolidWorks 2023 templates. So maybe we'll add that as an example. I'll wait on that one. Let's go with the new part then. File New, and I want to open up a part. All right, so the generic part doesn't have any of our settings. My filters came on, so I'm going to go ahead and hide those and get this to where we can kind of see what is going on. The other thing that I need to do is to make sure that this stays push pinned. All right, so you should be seeing something very similar to this. There might be more or less tabs depending on how I did the install. So on the pull down menus now, we're going to see those expand out, and I like those for all of the commands that are available. There's a push pin, so if you're seeing something where that is collapsing and then you go through, if you need the screen space, go ahead and leave it collapsed and we'll just expand it when we need it. Kind of annoys me though, going in and out, so I usually just push pin and I don't worry too much about the rest of the menu bars. So again, we have the standard commands, and then well, I guess I am going to have to bring that back so that we can look at the other part. If you're on the higher resolution, shouldn't be an issue. So part one, and I haven't done anything yet, but if there is an asterisk next to this, that just means it hasn't been saved lately. That's one of your first visual clues of something that you need to do. You've made a bunch of changes. Maybe even it's popped up in the bottom corner. Hey, it's been 20 minutes since you last saved. Why don't you take a look at that? And sometimes it's you haven't really done much, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's one of those quick check, and there's nothing wrong with hitting Control S on the keyboard or coming up to our little disk and saying save every once in a while, just to make sure that we're not losing any data. All right, so our command manager, if I kind of like when I'm working that it will collapse, but I want to leave that out just now. So if it disappears, then you need to just click on one of the tabs and come over and hit the push pin, and then it will be able to collapse, sort of like what the taskbar does. I've run into some issues with my screen capture where the taskbar will expand and then not collapse again. So I just leave it on now, and it's just a matter of managing your workspace. All right, so if I right click and go to the tabs, maybe I don't want to see the weldments. What you don't want to do, absolutely do not turn all of these off because they're kind of a pain to get turned on. There's other ways to get back to it, but you don't want to turn off all of the tabs in the command manager. So sort of the same with with our task pane. There are some times where, as I mentioned in the previous video, that things can disappear, and under the view user interface, if I accidentally hit F10, that'll turn off the toolbars, F9, and the feature manager tree. All right, so some of those are products of of the of hitting a control and a letter combination. All right, so of the things in here, and that's not flying out, so the filter selection manager was the one I turned off. All right, so if you lose the heads-up display, if you use the task pane, there are times where we all get a little button happy and things disappear. This would be one of the places. Come to the toolbars, scroll up or down through there. Part of the problem is knowing what it's called, but once you've kind of identified that, hey, it was there and now it's not, at least that gives you some direction to be able to turn those on. All right, so in our screen now, we have the command manager, we have the sketch tools. I'm not going to do direct editing initially, but evaluate for measure and mask properties is pretty handy. And then those add-ins from the options pull down. We have some access to those as well. So I might that might be one I turn off to maximize some screen space. If I go to the double arrows, I can make this bigger or smaller. And if you happen to hit the button, that will collapse it. You need to hit the button again to expand it back out. One of the things that I've seen happen with the task pane, and because these were not locked, I unlocked it. But be careful on anything that you can collapse and make almost go away. All right, so I need to anchor that again, and it will snap into place. And just like I said, it may look like the task pane is closed or that you can't get to it, but by dragging that double arrow, you have effectively changed its size to the point that it can't expand any more than it is. So let's see if we go back to the sketch. The other thing we'd look for is if I right-click in any of the gray areas, so a right mouse button, right-click. Then there is also the toolbars. There are the tabs, so if I didn't want to see the SolidWorks add-ins, I could turn that off. And then if we go to Customize, my Lock Command Manager and Toolbars is turned on. So we want to make sure that that is turned on. So let's go through that one more time. I'm going to right-click and Customize, and just anywhere up here in the gray area. There is the icon size again, small, medium, and large. What do we have? So yeah, the Lock Command Manager and Toolbars. Let me turn that off just a second. And what you'll see is if I drag that out, which it could be handy to put this on another screen, and I have done that before. But once you have changed it, you can go back to those handles. Right? We're going to grab the tab, and then by placing it on a handle, you can change its location. All right. Traditionally, on top is a good place to leave it. So once you get it situated, we'll lock the command manager, and then it won't accidentally fly out or disappear. All right. So again, the task pane will probably be using the design library when we get to the drawings, the view palette, and some of the custom properties here before too long. So we do want that to stay. Our status bar then. We have the version of the software, what is currently going on, we're editing a part, and millimeters, grams, and seconds. Right? So if I just want to do a quick change, I can pick any of the other units. And then if we go in and edit the document units, I could switch to those. But more importantly, if I want to be in inch, pounds, and seconds with 3 decimal places, then I have to manually change it. If this is something that I'm doing often, and we will do often, more than likely I'm going to create a template here pretty quick so that I don't have to change this. Anything that I'm changing whenever I open the part more than once or twice, it's time to build it into the template. All right, look like my screen lagged there just a little bit. Coming around to the feature tree, then Here is the solid bodies. Apparently I had the equations on. I like to see those. Yes, we want to see material. And then the standard three planes, and the origin at the intersection of those three planes. The property manager shifts in and out automatically. So when I tell it to draw a line, it switches to the line properties. When I tell it to do a rectangle, I'll see rectangle properties, circle properties. So we don't really have to ever click on that one. It will just magically appear and disappear as needed. Configurations and display states, we have the physical properties that we can manipulate. If I always use the example of a standard screw. You're standing in the hardware aisle and you're looking at a pan head screw that is a 1032 or an M5 by 0.8, and it comes in small to long length, and maybe there's 10 sizes. Do you want to make 10 separate models, or do you want to configure 10 separate lengths in one model? And that is basically what's happening with our toolbox over here, is they are doing different sizes and different configurations of the same geometry to make different size parts and lessen the amount that goes on with the database. The DIM Expert Manager is part of our GD&T and model-based definitions. Model-based dimensioning depends on which acronym you want to go with. And then the display manager. So the appearances over here kind of works in conjunction with the appearances over here, depending on what we're telling it to do. And so we have those two very similar but kind of different things. All right. So other things that I would like to see is under the hide show. So in the heads up display, I don't think I've customized this anyway. We have the zoom to fit, zoom to area. So some of our zoom commands, we'll get more into that when we're creating something. The previous view, our section view, dynamic annotations, I don't use those all that much. I can't say I use them at all. The view orientations pull down will give you the selection cube. And then also notice that as you hover, you're going to see the basic location. And then we are looking at the hotkeys, and we'll talk a little bit about more control 1 through 8. And then in addition, we have the dimetric and the trimetric for those groups. And then under the display, shaded with edges, shaded without edges. A little hard to discern some of the corners and faces. And then the wireframe or hidden lines removed, hidden lines visible, and the actual wireframe where everything's solid and good luck figuring out what you're looking at. But the actual wireframe is handy for some of the CAM programs where toolpaths might not be visible with the solids on an interior piece of geometry, that it would allow you to be able to see those. So the all-important display, if you click on the eyeball, that will hide everything. We don't really want to do that. You want to show all types. So if I have clicked on that and I do the pull down, notice a good portion of that will be grayed out. All right, so everything's grayed out except for details, the grid, and the sketch relations. All right, that's not good. We want to be able to see those. So we want to have those icons. What is got the gray background is active, and what doesn't, we can toggle back and forth. And you're going to see a lot of these visual toggles of things that you might not need. So chances are your view sketch relations is turned on. I'm going to say go ahead and turn that off, but I will turn it on so when we get to these sketches I remember to show you, and then also show you how to turn it back off. The screen background, all right, so notice that the appearances comes up when we do that, colors and different items. My screen background plain white. Oh, and I forgot to turn the origin back on now that I mentioned that. So there is the view origin. I do like to have that little blue dot in the parts, not so much in the assembly, which we'll talk about why later. If your computer is capable of real view, you can have all of the shiny shadows, ambient, and a lot of times those aren't very good for my videos. And um, this video card does not support it. My laptop does, so I'll probably pull up a project in that to show what the real view does. But for the most part, those can be turned off. Perspective is kind of weird because if you create a part with a hole through it, then you would expect to see a circle in the top view. With perspective, you actually see two circles because that hole is going to a vanishing point just like the rest of the part. All right, so we're going to do some more with the options. The main thing is to click the buttons, start figuring out where things are at, and then uh, getting set up that you have the navigation and kind of a sense of where to find those items that you need to start creating geometry.